open the meeting on order. Marcia, why don't you give us a roll call?
Yep, we got Jerry,
Here.
John.
Yep.
Justin
Here.
and Alexia.
The first item for us to talk about, the continuation of the public hearing will be this Tuesday. This is just going to be reopening, not reopening, or just restarting. Oh, here comes Lexi. The public hearing from April 12th concerning the Spiegel property. With the permit request withdrawn, I think it'll be minimal. I think what my plan is, anyone who gets up to speak, just to remind them of everything we already do know. We're not looking for necessarily repeat items, that the permit's been withdrawn, so there really isn't something for the council to act on, to try and kind of keep it towards a minimum. Any thoughts from anyone else as far as what you want to see? Or?
No, I think I'd like to see it kept to a minimum.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've had more than.
I think you're gonna have someone potentially revisit all the questions that they have.
Yeah.
35 questions, whatever.
Yeah,
Stop at 35 maybe.
that was the first email.
Yeah.
So I think maybe, be prepared to address that.
Yeah. Doug, anything you want to add on that, on the public hearing part?
Yeah, I'd say a couple of things. One, I just noted, looking ahead at the two kind of draft agendas down the road, I think you had, or Marcy had these two items on the May 24th agenda. But I do agree that from the April 12th meeting, we talked about reconvening on May 10th. So I think you want them on the May 10th meeting.
You know, Annette, I'll double check with Annette. I know that she wanted to kind of keep everything as much as she could off of that meeting because she
Okay.
wanted to be here, but that's also, I think, maybe prior to her knowing that it was being all withdrawn, so.
Okay.
I think she was okay that we were still going to have that on May 10th.
Okay,
I think we'll leave that on there. I guess I hadn't looked that far ahead to see that we had that.
And I'd pull I wouldn't have anything on the agenda about considering the ordinance at all. I would just have the reopen the public hearing that was adjourned on April, whatever meeting that was, reference the rezoning of parcels as identified, the two parcel numbers, but I wouldn't even have an agenda item related to the ordinance amendment since that's been withdrawn.
okay.
Yeah.
Next, it could be that Annette just hadn't updated it. She's been doing a lot of that
Yeah.
stuff.
And then, and Mayor, I spoke today with the Bureau Chief of the Iowa Department of Agricultural and Land Stewardship. You know, one of his workers, our staff members, got the email that was also sent to the city with that long laundry list of questions that have been kind of a growing list. So some of those questions you've seen multiple times with new ones added. They can answer some, but there's a number of departments at play when it comes to those questions. So to the extent they're, Peg or anybody else would want to kind of hit the council on all those questions, I think where we're at with those is part of the reason the Spiegels have withdrawn their applications. It's going to take a while to come up with answers to those questions. Some of those questions may not even have answers. So I think all I could add, and or you could add based on our conversation tonight, the IDOLS department, they'll be responding to somewhere between 6 and 10 of those questions that fall within their purview. And I suggested to them, they were one of the entities emailed directly by PEG. So I said, well, you definitely respond directly to her and just copy the city so we're aware. It seems to me the only remaining issue that people might want to talk about or look for answers in their mind too would be the ability of the Spiegel family to continue to haul materials off site. From an IDOL standpoint, that's almost a requirement. From a standpoint, if they're going to quit blasting and they understand that, it's at this point, it's at least a temporary reprieve. They aren't going to blast unless and until they get authority down the road. IDOLs, when you have a mining and quarrying permit and you're done blasting or you're done mining and quarrying, you can't leave material sit there like that. You got to get them off. So it's not really a zoning answer, but they definitely have no objection or it would not be a violation of any state permits that run through them for the family to remove what it is they blasted. And, you know, as far as the road and whether the road should have a road limit, whether the road's being damaged or not, I guess those are, you know, again, those are other questions and maybe fall into the purview of the city and the county together with some engineers to look at things and decide to what extent there should be any kind of a limit or restrictions to those loads or not, but.
So do we know, sir, is there currently a load limit on that road?
There's nothing posted. I don't know if there is an actual limit that's just not posted.
Yeah, you know, that is something, just based on the comments made at meetings, my take is that there isn't. But if you'd like that investigated, we can look into that before the meeting, so we have that answer anyway.
I think we can just leave that open for right now, and if
Okay.
it needs to be addressed down the road.
Yeah,
But then we can look at it at that point, so. Yeah, I think for right now, I think we're all in agreement that the product needs to be moved off of the property in whatever form. You know, it needs to go from there anyway, at some point. And that has nothing to do with the mining part of the operation, so. Is that kind of where we're all? I mean, moving the gravel off.
Yeah, it's gotta go someplace.
Yeah, it's gotta be somewhere, so there's only one way to get it off, and that's with the truck, so.
yeah. And I would say if I got asked, I guess, and we've talked about this in a couple meetings, I haven't found anything in the city code that would prohibit that material from being moved. You know, again, it's not something the code contemplates where, you know, you create you quarry a piece of property that isn't zoned for quarrying. And in the process, you create a bunch of material, then you realize it's not zoned for quarrying, so you quit quarrying. And what do you do with the material then? You know, that's just not something that would be written up in the code because you don't foresee that happening. So with that caveat, I'd say there's nothing in the code, in my opinion, that says they can't load that material up and haul it off. You know, if the road's being damaged or not is a side issue that could be looked at, but I don't think that, you know, unless something changes there, that there'd be any prohibition against them removing it. Because even let's say the engineers, the county engineer, the city has an engineer look at the road, and it seems like there should be a load limit. That wouldn't prohibit them from removing the rock or the sand or the gravel. It would just mean they'd have to take smaller loads in theory.
Yeah, in theory.
So that's
More and smaller.
Yeah, so that just puts more traffic on the road, so,
yeah.
you know, which pick your poison, I guess, at that point.
Yeah, so I think it's kind of the general gist of the discussion would be that we've been presented with a laundry list of questions either during the public hearing and or via email. And those, you know, through different venues or different departments and different avenues, we're trying to get as many answers as we can. And we'll continue to do so, but with the withdrawal of the application, there will be no more mining or quarrying at the present time, and they will be permitted, however, until something, you know, they'll be permitted to haul the material off unless and until something else happens that says they can't.
Okay. Any questions on the public hearing section? Okay. Moving on then, council review on commercial sign and road permitting. I think you all saw some notes there about possibility of taking that off of the council's plate all the time to cause approval as far as different items, like the instances that came up last week. I guess you guys tell me what your feelings is that are in council members. Thoughts.
I think you'd probably keep the commercial side on it. I don't know if we necessarily need to see the
Curb cuts.
curb cuts and the right of ways and the sign stuff, but I definitely don't want to not know what buildings.
Yeah, that was just more of the thought process, is to keep us in the loop of what's going on, what's getting built.
I mean, we can always do what we did. It ain't that big of a deal to approve it with.
If she needed something quick, how often was that in a month?
That's fine. That worked for
I
me.
still think you can leave them on there.
Just to have, because you're gonna get asked by the public what's going on.
What's
It's
going on?
nice to have knowledge of what's going on.
Leave alone, except in like emergency type situations.
Keep it the same?
Keep it the same
Keep
and
it the same.
keep it the same, we'll
I guess outside of,
the need of client at the time.
outside of like last week when there were 2 items, how often, you guys remember that?
That's how much time I can remember that we had to.
Okay, that's kind of what I thought, so, yeah, so we'll just kind of leave that the same for right now.
And it wasn't like we hadn't seen all that stuff before.
Right. Okay.
It's just timing was,
Yeah,
I think
wasn't an issue.
intentions were just to try to keep some of that
just trying to.
off
keep
of
it
your
moving.
plate, and keep it moving, so you guys didn't have to be, yeah.
I think, yeah.
Is that something it's just we could put in the consent agenda items?
Is that what you?
It's fine.
yeah,
Oh, they can need to, if you're not going to.
If we're gonna leave it the same, we don't.
Leave it the same,
do
just
anything,
let it
right?
know, and that, no, we're gonna leave it the same, and I
Okay.
put it.
I think it was just a
item.
request if, to possibly change it, but if we're not gonna change it,
we don't,
there isn't.
but I see what John's saying, do you actually need to
Approve it.
approve it
As
as
So right now,
a separate item?
right now we have to approve it, right?
Right.
Yes, as a
So-
separate item.
So we just put that in the consent agenda, so where we review it at.
Oh, okay, yep.
And it just gets, instead of having a separate item on the agenda, for the consent agenda, we just approve it with the whole consent agenda.
It's in there, you can discuss it if you need to.
If you have any questions,
I don't mind that.
That's all really.
then, yeah. Okay.
Usually with the consent agenda, if you put these in there and nobody has any questions, then you just vote to approve the consent agenda. Technically, if there's anything in the consent agenda you want to discuss, you actually pull it out of the consent agenda, approve the consent agenda without that item, and then discuss that item separately and, move and second it as a separate action. So that's definitely okay. I mean, if a lot of these you see, you're really more inclined just to want notice of them, and they aren't gonna really result in discussion, that seems to make sense to slide them into the consent agenda. And if you see it in there and you aren't quite sure what it is, talk to Annette in advance of the meeting, get a feel for it and understand it. Then at the meeting, you can just, like you guys were saying, just approve it with the consent agenda vote.
We've got the revised plat for Callahan, parcels 1403005. 6002. The revised final plat. That's right, it's.
You have anything you want to add to this?
I just, I'm here if there's, answer any questions that I possibly can, and see if there's anything Joe was gonna need before the next meeting, and basically, just send me up here.
All those attachments on there. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so we met, we moved the planning and zoning agenda or meeting to Monday night so that we could vote on this. Someone from, there's some note there. Meeting minutes. Well, this Kristen was also on the Zoom call and basically kind of just explained what the changes were. From what I understand, basically he's changing, this is the new plat. Let me pull up the original one. This is the previously approved one. And essentially what's been happening, I believe there's gonna be a cul-de-sac, but essentially what's happening is because there's a big cost and time to get the materials for the culvert, is he's wanting to kind of more do it in 2 halves. So kind of a phase 1 and a phase 2, planning on doing more of this part of it first. So it's going from having lot 1 to, again, I don't know a lot about it, but essentially it's moving it from this one. And then this is the new revised plat. 1 and 2. You know, let me turn it back and forth, but
So the thought is he's gotta work on lot 1 first.
yeah, then this is gonna be kind of phase 1 and then phase 2, once he's able to figure out what to do with the culvert and whatnot.
So all the road, all the traffic or whatever come through that Adrena.
So the road will not be completed all the way through until Phase two is done?
Yeah, I think that there was gonna be, if you knew. It was gonna be gravel.
He's gonna put a cold stack in, like you said, and we've got to work on that culvert. That culvert's $300,000. It's a question mark when you can get it.
Right.
And with the wetland litigation going on there too, so we can start phase one. And have some 16 plexes put on phase one, work on the culvert, work on the wetlands, have time to do that, get that all going through. He did talk about putting a construction road in too, as far as so the traffic wouldn't be coming off. I'm not sure where it's going, but he did mention that for all the trucks and stuff.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of having all the trucks go through,
Not residential, no.
not the residential.
No, they're not. He's not going to the residential. He's putting in construction.
And where would that go?
Is that gonna go over to Cox Springs?
Cox Springs and all that.
Yes.
If you look at,
He's not coming to the.
You're really trying, Marcy.
Sorry, I'm trying. There we go. Does that help a little bit?
That works.
Yeah, before and after.
there's one more attachment on there.
But
But it's, but just has a
Yeah.
pretty simplified,
So where you had like 1, 2, 3, 4, it's
Yeah.
going to
I'm
basically.
just saying, that's the simplified of what the construction road would look like.
Actually, can you bring Doug back up once? I gotta ask him a question.
What's that?
I gotta ask Doug a question.
Do you want to see him?
Yes, please.
Hey,
I'm gonna have to abstain from this, so how do I best go about doing that?
We're
well,
not
if
voting
you,
on anything tonight.
yeah,
I'm not supposed to probably be in any discussion, correct?
yep, if you have the potential professional or financial stake in this, you shouldn't get involved in the discussion. Yep,
So
And
it's-
if it- say again?
Should I leave the meeting while they discuss
No,
this?
I don't,
Just talk?
no, I think if you just sit there
Okay.
silently, you'll be fine, but. I did, when listening to you guys talk on the proposed conditions plan, one of those attachments, it does show the proposed construction entrance coming from Cox Springs Road. On a gravel drive, it looks like over to that cul-de-sac, and I would note that the cul-de-sac won't be fully paved. They'll pave the 50 foot of Adriana, and then kind of the bubble out or the bump out of the cul-de-sac would probably be gravel, because that's just a temporary cul-de-sac.
Yes.
So, which is not uncommon. Has the city engineer looked at this yet?
Not that I'm aware.
I'm not aware that the NK has yet,
Okay.
but I could be wrong. I don't believe so.
is there,
This extension of Adriana will become a city street. So you'll want the engineer to kind of at some point look at the plan, the specs to be sure that the water main, sewer main, right of way width, everything lines up with the design standards required by city code. Because once it's done, I assume those improvements will be dedicated to the city and become city infrastructure. So you want to be sure they meet with your expectations.
on that construction road, is there gonna be a culvert or anything down there, or is it just gonna go through the waterway gravel? On that temporary road that they got drawn in there?
How's that cross the water?
Yeah, does it go down through, is it just gravel laid down and you drive through it, or is there like a temporary culvert or something that's gonna be put in there?
And I didn't know if he was.
It's actually on that only attachment you have clicked.
Sorry, what?
The one attachment.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, that's fine.
This one?
Oh, no, 21154. Over, no,
Shoot, I'm sorry.
that's okay.
This one?
That one. Yep.
Oh, there we go.
It doesn't look like there is one. It's like put the gravel down or whatever and drive right through it.
But Steve, you didn't know for sure what was going on there?
No,
Okay.
call him and answer. So you guys.
Well, I guess that's gonna become kind of once our engineers take a look at that.
DNR too, right?
DNR.
Yeah. But I'd rather have it come from Cox Springs than go through the Park View over there with trucks and everything.
Well, for sure, that I do know, it's not taking the construction to the residential. He was gonna do a construction road for all the equipment.
Yeah.
This is the, just to get me situated, this is the land that that Joel just recently bought closer to the highway from Jim Conlon, right?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Are there gonna be, we're looking at, it's described as a final plat. And, one of the documents, there's no lots shown, as far as, so when I see something like this with those big lots, how is it gonna be developed? How's lot 1 gonna be broken up? How's lot 2 gonna be broken up? Future street layouts. A lot of times you see all that in what's in a preliminary plat that lays out kind of, this is what I'm thinking for all of this. And then if I'm gonna start with lot 1 and 2, then you would approve a final plat to lot 1 and 2. Leave the lot A, B aside as a preliminary plat for a final plat to be presented at a later date for that side, but I'm just, does the city, do you guys have a feel for how this is gonna develop, how big a lots, residential, zoning been addressed yet, residential, commercial, et cetera?
I do not, I've not seen anything.
I don't, and I mean, I just don't believe so.
So I don't have, he's getting that drawn up, which he bring in to the next meeting. So the phase 1 is apartment complexes, and the lots, he's doing them to adjust. Some people need a bigger lot versus, well, for example, Dartford, obviously they could use more parking. So his example is, different business requires a different bigger lot, so that's in his head as far as, well, I don't want to make them this size, and then they need a big one, so he's kind of, I know you have to have it drawn up, this and that, but he's working on that, that's how he wants to do that as far as.
So then, Doug, are you saying that we should wait to see that before we approve this?
Well, if this is being,
Because right now, if we approve this, anything can go anywhere, and then this is what it is, right?
yeah, this is kind of I mean, if he's looking for kind of a preliminary, we're okay with this road extension and the location and how that lays out. And as kind of a preliminary, even phasing that the council okay with it, I would think you'd want to see more detail as far as, how, is it Adriana or Adriana?
Adrena,
Adrena, thank you. Okay, so Adrena is shown there. But yeah, that's again the benefit of, because I think Joel owns a lot of this land now, seeing how this all is going to work together instead of looking at it at one small piece at a time. That, if he builds out on both sides of Adrena all the way across there and there's no room for a north-south street, that's not a good sign or a good plan for the city. So I think you'd want to have a feel for that and see some proposed lots. And again, the preliminary plat usually lays it out. This is my plan, but then as I move forward, if somebody came in and said, I need a little bigger lot or a little smaller plot, you can do some replatting and moving some things around. But yeah, I don't think I'd recommend approving one. You've never got a preliminary plat to jump right into a final plat and approve it without showing any additional streets, proposed lot sizes and locations. You sure don't know much other than the location, the proposed location of Adrena, and the fact that on the south side is looking at, I think, multifamily residential and then some commercial probably on the lot B side. But I think you'd want to see a little bit more or know a little bit more.
And then P and K, look at both of them, right, with the.
but yeah, I don't want to see a little more detail.
This one, I believe, is a final plat, and this is just a revision of that. So just to make that clear, this was a final plat at one time.
Right, I still think I want to see what.
And we had that work session on May 12th.
Correct.
But I'm not sure why. I can check with the NAC because we had the planning and zoning meeting specifically so they could review this prior to May 10th. So I don't know what the thought process was on getting that approved May 10th and then having the work session the 12th. So
Yeah.
Do you want to get the road in right away? Does he want to get the road in right away, or?
He wants to get the road in right. Want to start building right away.
Because then it would go to the work session. You could talk about it again and we could vote on it May 24th.
Right, I would like to see.
And I think it would make sense to have the engineer look at it too before it gets approved, just on. One thing that jumps out at me, and it may be fully compliant with the code. But looking at the extension of Adrena, it's a 50-foot right of way. Right of ways for city streets can often be as wide as 60 or 66. It just depends, one, on what your code might say. You need to consider what your comprehensive plan says. I know there was a lot of talk back when this was being looked at with some of the comprehensive planning and the PUD discussion of, are you wanting a trail or sidewalks to connect through this area and over to Adrena and beyond? Because with the 50-foot right of way, depending on your street width and sidewalks and a potential trail, that may or may not be wide enough to do what you want to do there. Because this doesn't provide really any detail as to what's proposed with regard to, those types of improvements. It does have the 50-foot right of way, then a 10-foot public utility easement on each side of it for your, potential water, sewer, storm sewer, those kind of improvements. But it doesn't, again, depending on the width of the street, on-street parking or not on-street parking, 10-foot wide trail, 5-foot wide sidewalks, whatever the case may be, those things need to be considered before you get it locked into a 50-foot wide right of way, I think.
Steve, you think he's working on another drawing where he's breaking this down?
Yeah,
Do you know how far along that is, or?
I don't know how far along it is. I know what he wants to do is basically, multifamily, commercial businesses. It's just,
But I guess we're probably looking for more information before we make a vote on Tuesday the 10th, which I know is what he was
I'm
looking for.
gonna leave here and call him.
Okay.
What is the most important thing that you, and he might have it already. Sure. He's been working with me.
Sure.
Doing this and that, so, like I said, he called me, last night, said, hey, can you pop up to Piasta and just check out that meeting? And then ask you guys questions what we need from him, so he can work on it and get it taken care of. So I might already be at the office, you might have something.
I think the big thing is just more detail as far as future development, what does it look like? Are there additional roads gonna be put in there north to south off of that? More of a final plat.
What's gonna be there.
Yep.
So you can see what's.
Right.
What the final plat's gonna be
Yep.
like, just. So that's pretty
And
simple.
at the very minimum for the one, was it lot 1? For where the cul-de-sac's gonna be lot 1 and 2 over there. But I mean, if he's got an idea of what he wants the whole thing to look like, that'd be great to see too. Just to kind of get an idea.
I can understand that, yeah, I mean, it's.
Hey, Doug, a question then, at this point, if we're gonna wait for more detailed plat, or any reason to have engineers look at it now, or wait for that other one, wait for the next one?
I say if Joel's got something else in the works that's gonna have more detail, maybe wait, but if he doesn't, I mean, the benefit of having, if nothing else, having a conversation between Origin and the city's engineer about what's expected with regard to, back to those kind of basic features, the right of way width, trails, sidewalks, size of sewer main, size of water main, storm sewer, any of those kind of things that are kind of your basic city infrastructure that your engineer would be able to provide some advice on. That might be worth having a discussion sooner than later, so they don't do a whole bunch of design that's inconsistent with what the city's gonna expect. And I'm gonna expect too, that they're probably gonna be pretty close to on board with each other, because Joel's done enough of this that he probably has a pretty good understanding of what'll be accepted, but it doesn't hurt to confirm that both sides are on the same page with regard to that infrastructure before he spends a lot of money designing something that might not get approved.
So your recommendation at this point is have city engineer talk with Joel's engineer?
Yep, at least the initial stage for the city engineer to pipe into him what he'd like to see.
You have, who, if I get a hold of E and K, give me the path, then who should I get a hold of? Origin, is there anybody specific working on this one?
Her name,
Is that Kristen or?
yeah. Kristen.
So I'm sure we have it.
I have her last name in the notes from the city, from the PNC meeting.
Okay,
I don't recall, can't think off the top of my head what her last name is,
okay,
and it's not in that.
we'll get that going, we'll get a hold of E and K and have them get a hold of Origin. In the meantime, talk to Joel and
I'm gonna leave your comments on what you guys.
if he's got questions, I know he's. If you can get a hold of me.
All right, I'll let them know, appreciate it.
Right.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Back in.
Maybe you want to be back in.
A couple of things that popped up today. Eldon from Oregon sent an email. Please see attached for change order number 5 revised for the WWTF. Discussed at the meeting on 4/12. We've gone back to A&G and to review the costs related to the junction box relocation. They have agreed to split the cost, as you'll see in the A&G request. They've reduced the cost by half. IM&G will be covering the other half. As discussed, Origin Design will pass that through to the city as a reduction of billing. Invoice and explanation.
No, it doesn't get it. No.
What's that? No. Okay. I'm just telling you, this is what came, and Eldon,
Sorry, that wasn't directed at you.
They wanted it on the agenda for
They- so
today,
they
so
wanted- yeah.
we bring it, because I just
so
got the
you
email.
wanna look at it? No. Okay.
Eldon is not getting the point.
I think we were pretty clear at that.
We were more than clear at the last meeting that we were done paying for any of this.
For mistakes that weren't ours.
They designed it,
They inspected.
they inspected it, didn't realize it wasn't
To
built
go,
correctly to go.
and then they want us to pay it. Yes.
No,
But I think they're saying they're not, that A&G and IMEG are gonna, they get it.
They're gonna pay for half of
they're
it.
gonna pay for half of it and the rest is gonna be passed on to the city.
Yeah.
To pass on to the city as a reduction.
I'm not paying for a dime of that.
No, I mean, and I could be reading it wrong. I'm thinking that, I don't know who IMEG is, but I'm thinking A&G is paying half and IMEG's paying half.
Yes. That
If
is,
you're not paying
it's,
it.
it's, it's,
Okay.
Yeah, it's not.
I'm sorry. I
Yeah,
thought
okay.
they said they were.
Yes.
I thought-
I've had the email for a couple hours, so I've had plenty of time.
No, I thought it was that we said they
No.
would pass the.
Pass along to
City.
Past the reduction, it's
The
just we're way of,
reduction, reduction.
Okay.
bill.
Okay.
yeah,
Then yes.
so yes. But Eldon will be at the meeting, then we'll add him to,
Then you can yell yes at him.
if you want, you can say no first.
He does not like.
So anyway, so we'll have that on the agenda for,
That's,
Well, maybe the.
Which one?
and the next email is.
Do they?
no, the next email is, from
IAW.
with IIW or whatever you want to call them. Within the 2 attachments are an overall improvement plan for the wastewater treatment facility lagoons.
AJ stuff.
Yep, and the costs associated with utility program improvements. AJ is asking the city consider cost sharing for the proposed utilities and relocation of the wastewater pumping station. Please let me know if you have any questions.
Asking us to share in the cost, but
He is asking to share.
To do what?
does he have a breakdown of what he wants us to pay?
That's what I have.
An idea of what he's gonna do up there. That's what the lagoon preliminary plat is on Tuesday's meeting? Is that?
Like $1.2 million total, but what part of that does he want us to pay?
I didn't see anything in there that said. So I assume that's the preliminary plat.
Yeah,
What pump is up there? That's not the one down lower, right? It's up top.
I can maybe answer these questions.
Pardon the Lance Road.
And I have big printouts, because Jeff, there was a gentleman here the other day. Let me see, this is the- Hold that thought. I'll bring it back, because a gentleman from Burton stopped the other night. He had something.
From where it's better at explaining to you guys what this actually is.
So we don't know what the cost is, what the cost are
Well, he's got 1.189 million here.
to relocate the.
Wastewater lift station and budgetary cost estimate.
She just, and it just says that she believes AJ wants us to share the cost.
Right. There isn't a specific amount asked.
This is about moving the pumps, the lift station or the pump station, correct? Okay. So a gentleman stopped the other night, Sean and I were still here, he thought he was coming to the P and Z meeting, yeah. He dropped these off, and I believe these are some additions to what they already had. So it added some streetlights. Very good, Deanna. So he pointed out that they had added proposed streetlights on the road here, this was that cul-de-sac. And down at the bottom here, this is the pump station, or the lift station that needs to be moved.
Why is it, it's all.
So this says pump station relocation is $260,000.
But this,
So why does the pump station have to be?
yeah, but this says, because you're now proposed.
Again, I'm not super up on it, he just came in, he explained it, because Annette wasn't here, and I'm like, I'll explain this to her tomorrow. He just basically, yeah, these streetlights, he added. And this.
Or his proposals look
I think
like
it's more of an
more.
access thing. And you mentioned something about downloading some of this.
It's all that utilities, emergency overflow, and so he wants us to pay
Trying
half
to
of
get up buildable ground.
What's that?
Looks like.
From what money?
Area. He's trying to put it down in,
Can city explain a
So
lot?
you're saying that the costs of moving that is $260?
Yeah, but this, Jerry's right, this email, or this says sharing cost of the proposed utilities and relocation. So it's not just relocation, it's the whole thing. This is how I guess I take it.
Absolutely, got mobilization and stuff on
And
there.
I believe that's the section where he's trying to.
You guys want copies of this?
Might be some cost off of that, but
I'm okay
probably,
with it now, but
probably the tune of $1 million.
lighting,
And the moving.
so
sanitary.
here, I can pass this over to John,
Okay.
so he can see it. So we just need to know what he's asking for more specifically.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to know what he thinks the city's portion of that should be.
What are you looking for?
So don't we have like a contract with him for the property, like the
The land
swap? Does that, I guess I don't know what
It doesn't
that,
address any of this. It just is that we are gonna get two of them in clean operating condition, right?
Yeah,
That's where they had to do the soils testing.
nothing in there as far as utilities or cost sharing or anything like that.
It's just the next step for him, so it's say utilities, it's a little.
So we're thinking the whole kit and caboodle.
well, if you read that email, that's kind of how it says,
Read the
relocation.
second page,
Yeah,
it's
it
kind of backwards.
says relocation and utilities.
So normally, like when we do utilities and stuff, we buy the pipe, right? Which is what we've done in the past. We buy the sewer pipe, we buy the water pipe, and we get it at a better discount or they would.
I don't know,
Um,
this day and age.
Well, that's just telling you that's what was done in the past. And everything else would be up to them, right? Because mobilization, moving the dirt, all the dirt work, all that stuff, we've never had to pay for in the past.
So in the
Correct.
past, we've purchased all the pipe and not for all the other subdivisions.
Yeah,
Doug, I shared.
Not all of them.
With you that I.
When we were asked.
From the different.
when we were asked to help, that's what we did. You can ask Dean too, he'll be a better person to ask about that.
You're looking at probably $50 a linear foot pipe now.
1.1 there, so at least 500,000.
So what do we need to do from here?
When they sent the email, they asked to have that added to the May 10th agenda, so that's why
So they can come and,
Yeah, have them
Ask
come and
us.
talk, have them come and talk.
yeah, which is totally fine. They just asked to have it added, so we thought we'd throw it out to you guys.
This is it under development B, preliminary plat lagoon site?
Yeah, we can add it to,
No.
I haven't added that yet at all,
It's
so
not-
we can add it as part of
You
that.
Look on the back page of,
Yeah, I didn't add that on there, so either Annette already knew it was coming, or that might be,
okay, but you know that's there,
yeah.
so then it's,
Ours.
so yes.
Yeah. so then they're gonna come and they're just gonna propose that, and then we can ask.
Coming,
I think this is, this will
Not
planning and
bad.
zoning met about, I think this is more the, what's already on it, because this is the main agenda here that I pulled up. That is,
So is that, when you click on that,
that's what was already on
That's,
there.
that's what you were just showing us. It
That doesn't have,
doesn't have the add-ons.
correct,
does that have the
because it talks
buildings?
about proposed streets and streetlights.
Oh,
And then this gentleman dropped this off the other night when Annette was already gone, or no, she was already gone, and then she was here the next day.
Does that have a building on it there on the south side?
no,
Just streetlights.
streetlights, contours.
So this is this email from today is new to be added in addition to the,
So we were gonna talk about this anyway. This we already had.
yeah, this
Or
one,
that already.
right,
We already had the plat.
right.
Not that, but
So it'll just be a discussion on Tuesday. There'll probably be any action.
Well, see, this is what Callahan's plat basically was, a preliminary plat, not a final, right? So we can ask.
Okay.
I mean, how long till the cells are even ready for something like this to even happen?
I thought that one cell they were talking about, he wanted to get moving yet this fall. I thought they were gonna be able to have that done.
I thought,
That's
if
cleaned
I'm not
up.
mistaken, wasn't the first 3,000 tons of sludge being moved by, maybe gone by fall?
Yes. Yeah, I wanna say like August.
They were gonna do something and they ended up, I think, having to be,
Well,
to go slower than what they initially thought because of the landfill. You can only accept so much of it at a time.
About setting up a schedule. I know we have another meeting on this. About this sludge. Something like that, so.
All right, so they're gonna come talk to us.
Yeah, so I will add that item to about the cost to the agenda along with that, that's already
If
there.
I don't know what they're looking for.
Yeah, maybe get that information so they're not in between the eyes when they get here. What are they looking for cost sharing? He just says half or whatever, but give us a number.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to reply to Jim, just say,
Yeah,
This is the
Steve and
question.
Joe were both on the email.
Maybe even ask Dean too, to see what we've done in the past.
This week, but we can text him.
Oh, okay.
okay.
Wonder-
Well, he needs, tomorrow's Friday, he's off on Fridays, but he'll probably answer.
Yeah, well, next week, or I can give him a call. Is he back next week?
I believe so.
Just to
He's
find out.
trying to use up some of his time before it runs out.
I tried to call him today and said, I'll call you later. He never did, so.
Oh, okay.
unless there's something-
Yeah, I haven't heard from him or talked to him, but he did send me a report, so. All right,
All right, I have no other things to bring to your attention. Anyone
Mayor,
else?
Beer?
Beer? Beer?
Mr. Mayor, not beer.
Beer. I don't know why, Doug, but we all heard beer.
Yeah. Hey, on that, just a couple thoughts on the AJ piece there. And again, I know you have to look at what you've done in the past, and if this is different than what you've done, you could obviously be setting a precedent for other people to ask. I know a lot of cities over the years have bought the water main, bought the sewer main. In a lot of cases, they buy it and then invoice the contractor. So they actually, the city gets paid back. The contractor avoids paying sales taxes, and that's a pretty significant savings. Now, technically, that's illegal. Does it happen all the time? Yes. So that's my comment on that. Is AJ planning on putting up a big building or buildings? And if so, will he be asking the city for any incentives related to those constructions?
Yeah, something. It's gotta be down on that south side, I think, is what he's thinking.
Yeah, like a warehouse building.
Yeah. Well, my only thought would be a city investment in that kind of infrastructure, if it's not something you were always doing in addition to development agreements and incentives, if you will. That to me would be something you'd consider building into a development agreement. Maybe if you're making a significant investment in those utilities, you then don't do a tax abatement or a tax rebate agreement to the extent you might otherwise because you invested, say $200,000 up front. But just another thing to think about in that regard before you just, otherwise, if you agree to pay it and then he builds a building a year from now and comes back and wants, 90% tax rebate for a period of time, that's just additional money on top of your investment already. Not that you can't do it, it's just something to think about. And one other thing, I think we kind of skipped over the discussion earlier regarding commercial sign and right-of-way permitting. Annette also threw into the board docs that she would like permission to sign off on professional service agreements after they have been approved by the council with no dollar amounts. I'm not sure what she's talking about there, but I don't think I heard you hit on that question she had.
On my agenda.
That was on the,
It's under public content and the discussion B.
Okay,
isn't that what we talked about leaving in the?
That's the second section right here.
Yeah,
This part.
and she used for the example, like when V&K was here to move forward with the design work on the city hall. I think that's kind of her example, the PSA for V&K.
So when we give the okay,
We approve that it's okay from a budgetary standpoint, I think is what she's saying, that they need, because that, whatever that PSA agreement, there was no dollars, additional dollars that needed to be approved in that, correct? I think that's what she's asking, as long as it's not like an
those
extra.
are big dollars.
I don't know if I would be comfortable with a no dollar amount.
Those are just big dollars that, I think that agreement alone was 150,000, wasn't it?
I think the PSA that we approved didn't have a number attached to it, did it?
The design did, yeah.
For this area?
Yeah,
It was
design, there was
150.
a number attached.
But that was approved prior to this last, when Steve was here. B&K.
No, we
And
approved,
I'm,
we approved, we put together the scope and what it would cost to design.
okay,
That's when he came back to design,
That's-
across the 150, whatever mark it was. That's when we approved that. And I want to put down, yes, we want them to move forward with it, but if they would came back with a design estimate of $500,000, that might have changed their mind. I'd rather have that on us than an individual.
I agree.
Am I saying, am I,
Yeah,
yeah, and maybe I'm just understanding it wrong, because the way I'm understanding what she's asking for, if there's no dollar amount. I don't know, I mean, that's what I'm reading, the PSA with no dollar amount.
Doesn't she have a cap on what she can sign off on now?
I see what you're saying, so just.
She's not set time.
There's not, if we're just doing the PSA, there's not gonna be additional money spent.
That's what she's saying.
Oh,
It's not the original 150,000 or whatever that you're talking about. When V&K was here at the meeting on the 26th, that PSA didn't have any, we didn't have to approve any additional funds for it. It was just for them to proceed with the, is that, am I not saying that right?
how often?
And again, and this isn't like, it needs to be on the 10th.
Yeah, we can put that on the 24th, so we should
You guys can
clarify.
talk about it at the next work session, that way she can provide more.
Yeah, let's do that,
Explanation.
since there is some confusion.
Because I was thinking that it would be, that we agreed that we want him to move forward with it.
Correct.
And they came back later and said, okay, we're gonna move forward, it's gonna cost you this. I thought, that's what I'm reading is.
Yes, and I didn't think there was a dollar amount that day,
Okay,
but
let's get some clarification.
yeah.
I know there was an initial one where it said, yes, go out and make us some plans and come back, and it was really. Then when they came back, showed us the plans at that work session, and the next meeting, we all approved to say, yes, go ahead and move forward. I don't know that there wasn't a dollar amount attached to that agreement.
Yeah, I didn't think there was. I thought it was just an agreement that they could.
I'll just move that item to the next
Yeah. No,
work
yeah.
session, so that you guys, and that can expand upon.
Yep. Okay. Anything else we missed, Doug?
Nope.
Okay. Anything else anyone else has? All right, we'll close the meeting. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Doug.
Yeah,
Do you want me to have your daily bar for you?
help yourself. Yep,
All right, thanks, buddy.
yep, see ya.
I know, I was like, I gotta get back to my party.
Is there a big crowd?
Yeah, I was busy when I left.